They say a man's life can unravel in a single moment. Mine did, the day my wife boarded a plane to America. And 6 years later, I married the Maid. And the law stood behind me. 33 years in the police force had taught me to expect the unexpected. But nothing could have prepared me for the silence that swallowed my home, or for the secrets that crept in with the dusk. What happened in those empty years is a story my family still refuses to speak aloud. But tonight I will tell it. And as you listen, I invite you to share in the comments where you're joining us from. Your story matters too. My name is Kimazah. If you ask anyone who knew me in those early years, they will tell you I was a man bound by duty and tradition, one of the most trusted officers in a profession riddled by corruption. I joined the police force at 22, young, hungry for justice, determined to build a life worth honoring. And at 25, I went home to my village and got married. Martina, my wife, was 19 when her parents agreed to our marriage. She left her father's compound to follow me into a future neither of us could predict. Together, we weathered postings in remote villages shrouded in fog, navigated the stress of nights broken by urgent calls to duty, years marked by celebrations and sacrifices that only the two of us could truly measure. As I rose through the ranks, from constable with trembling hands to commissioner seasoned by storms, Martina's faith in me never wavered. Children came early into our marriage. Martina tended our home, raised our children. Indeed, she quietly patched up the wounds that police work left behind. When I finally retired after 33 years, the medal they pinned on my chest felt lighter than the gratitude I held for her companionship. As retirement neared and endless possibilities lay ahead, I dreamed of soft mornings, of her laughter drifting from the kitchen, of gentle bickering over which vegetables to plant, of afternoons with grandchildren, and evenings filled with old stories as the sun faded behind our garden wall. That was my dream, a simple, hard-earned peace. After years serving my country, I wanted only to serve my own heart and the woman who had stood beside it all. But life rarely unfolds as we imagine it. One evening, the phone rang. My youngest daughter's voice bubbled with excitement from America. She had given birth 3 months prior. She wanted her mother to come and babysit the baby. I hesitated. The plan did not sound sweet in my ears. "Isn't there daycare? Won't your husband help?" I asked. But my words were swept away in the tide. The call became a family tribunal. One by one, my children joined in. "Papa, don't you care about family? Why won't you support Mama?" Even Martina pleaded gently but firmly. "Kimazah, this is what families do for one another." We spent our youth sacrificing for the kids, I countered weakly. "When do we get to enjoy ourselves?" My children were insistent, guilt-tripping me. Beneath their words was an edge, sharper than I expected. My eldest son, Martino, suggested that if my problem was their mother's companionship, then I should accompany her to America. I refused. I had seen too many colleagues marooned abroad, forgotten in houses where they raised grandchildren all day, or left alone with televisions speaking a language they could not understand. I cherished my hard-won freedom, the laughter with friends at the palm wine joint, the taste of small joys that made life sing. My refusal only sharpened their accusations. "You're stubborn. You only think of yourself. Since your pension is delayed, it is our money keeping you afloat." The guilt weighed heavy, a stone pressing against my heart. Martina's eyes held disappointment and resentment, her hope of joining the ranks of women welcomed by their children abroad slipping away. My children's judgment cut deep, sharp as a blade, leaving me exposed in my own home. I was alone. To resist further would validate their contention that I was cold, selfish. Everything I had spent my life proving I was not. So I relented. "Let her go," I whispered. Not for peace of mind, but to preserve a family already slipping away. And with her departure, my world began to unravel. I remember that morning at Douala Airport. She was smiling, excited. I tried to smile too, but my lips refused. When the plane disappeared into the clouds, I felt something break inside me. I did not know it then, but that day marked the beginning of my loneliness. Silence has a weight. It pressed into every room. At first, my wife called me every day. Her voice was my anchor, but the calls grew fewer, once a week, once in 2 months, then only when she or the children needed something. The house itself seemed to mourn with me. Her slippers by the door, untouched. Her scent on the pillow, fading into nothing. Empty chairs at the dinner table, shadows stretching across them like grief. I had never cooked before. I burned pots, ruined meals, spilled rice. I cursed the silence as it echoed through the kitchen. Some nights I sat in the living room with the lights off, listening to the slow tick of the clock, trying to fill the emptiness with memories, but the void only grew larger. Loneliness was no longer a feeling. It became a presence, cold, unyielding. It turned my home into a shell and my heart into an empty room. Some nights I wandered through the house like a ghost, each room echoing with the weight of absence. The living room, once warmed by laughter and the gentle clatter of shared meals, now pressed in with a silence so thick it seemed to muffle my very breath. In the half-light, I would open old drawers and sift through crumpled family photos. Smiling children in school uniforms, Martina's eyes bright with hope. A much younger me in my smart police uniform, holding her hand beneath the mango tree. Each picture was a doorway to a memory I could visit, but never truly re-enter. I found myself revisiting the dreams I'd carried for decades. Dreams of gentle mornings with my wife by my side. Afternoons spent tending the garden as grandchildren's voices rang through the air. Evenings filled with stories and soft arguments over whose turn it was to water the plants. The life I'd imagined, the one that had sustained me through years of service, now shimmered just beyond reach, like a mirage dissolving in the heat of regret. Regret crept in quietly, settling deep in my bones. Sometimes I'd sit for hours in my favorite chair, the house so still I could hear the beat of my own heart pounding inside my chest, an urgent, steady reminder of time slipping away. I wanted to call my children, to tell them the truth, that their strong father, the man who wore a uniform and carried burdens in silence, was lonely, that he missed his wife in ways words could not capture. But I held my tongue. Men of my generation were taught to swallow their sorrows, to hide their tears. I wore my silence like armor, even as it weighed me down. I could not confess these aches to Martina in her distant home, nor to my children who believed men don't cry. Instead, I wandered along the corridors of memory alone, my heart heavy with the ache of unspoken longing and the fading hope that the life I dreamed of might still be waiting somewhere beyond the silence. Only one of my children truly listened. Peterson. He called me often. He heard the weariness in my voice. Quietly, he persuaded his siblings that I needed help. They would hire a live-in maid to take care of me. That is how Martha entered my life. She was 42, a single mother with a 10-year-old son who lived with her own parents. For her, the job was a blessing. It would enable her earn money to educate her son. For me, it was salvation. She cooked, she cleaned, she spoke to me with kindness, and slowly life began to return. I felt alive again. At first, her presence was practical, a voice calling me to dinner, a steady hand folding away yesterday's sorrow. But soon her laughter began to ripple through the house. Her presence stirred something in me that I could not explain, and little by little I found myself waiting for it. Word spread quickly, as it always does in small towns. Neighbors glanced sideways, their conversations pausing when I passed. Some voices were tinged with understanding, others edged with judgment, barbed and sharp. At the palm wine joint, my friends offered sly grins and knowing winks when Martha arrived to walk me home, her posture steady, her gaze unwavering. At first, their laughter stung, a bitter reminder of all I had lost. But Martha, ever composed, would flash a quiet smile, her dignity untouched by gossip. With a gentle squeeze of my hand, she reminded me, The world can speak, but only we know the story beating between our hearts. Let them talk, she said. We know what is true in this house. With her encouragement, I bought a piece of farmland. Most thought me foolish, too old for such ventures. But Martha saw possibility where others saw folly. Together we planted plantains, cassava, corn. She taught me to coax life from stubborn soil. I taught her how to mend a fence, patch a leak, haggle at the market. In the evenings, we sat side by side on the porch, trading stories, mine from my years in uniform, hers from a childhood of hardship and resilience. Slowly, gratitude blossomed into something deeper. Martha became more than a caretaker, she became the heart of my home. One day she told me she was pregnant. Her eyes carried fear, as if expecting rejection. I sat in silence. Then I told her, "We will marry." And I meant it. Was I still truly married? When Martina, my wife, had been gone 6 years? When she had abandoned me to solitude? My children raged when they heard. They pushed their mother to return. She appeared at my doorstep like a storm. Her eyes burned with grief and fury. And when she saw Martha, her hand resting on her swollen belly, silence tore through the house. Then came the torrent. Her words were sharp, trembling with betrayal, accusations. Memories turned into weapons. But for the first time in my marriage, I stood unmoved. I did not retreat and I did not bend. Had she not chosen America over me? She sued me. The courtroom was thick with tension. Her lawyer painted me as a traitor. She stood, voice trembling, accusing me of erasing her life, but my lawyer was calm. Then he made his argument. For 6 years, this man lived in emotional exile. Under customary law, polygamy is recognized. He has broken no vows. He has only sought dignity and companionship. The judge listened. Then her voice cut through the room like a blade. The law is the law. This marriage stands. The gavel struck. And just like that, my wife's place in my home was gone. Within a week, Martina was on a flight back to America. She told me the marriage was over, but she did not ask for divorce. My children, except Peterson, cut me off. They thought I would run out of money and come crawling back, but they were wrong. The government released my pension lump sum, 25 million CFA francs. I bought land. I expanded my farm. I grew oil palms and cocoa. With Martha by my side, preparing to raise our child, I found new life. Yes, I knew the others would never forgive me. Their mother would never allow it. But I also knew this. Life is too short to waste on loneliness. I chose to live. I chose to laugh again. I chose to love again. That is my story. A story of love, betrayal, neglect, and rebirth. Now I ask you, if you were standing where I stood, torn between family expectations and the longing for a second chance, what would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe, because voices like mine, and perhaps yours, deserve to be heard.
Hehehehe